It's good to be here with you today. My wife and I have just come back from vacation, and I wanted to come to you again and talk to you for a few minutes, as I do periodically. But before we begin, a little housekeeping notes. I'm Pastor Jeff from First-Calvary Baptist Church of North Andover, Massachusetts. Whenever you're in the area, come by and see us. We'd be delighted to have you. And last Sunday, there was no live stream from the sanctuary, and that's because my wife and I were away. And right now we're running the equipment that we're using. And so when we're away, there will be no live stream from the sanctuary. Now, when we get some new equipment in, which we expect to do fairly soon, we're going to train a team to run it. And then, whether we're there or not, as long as the pulpit supply pastor is all right with us, then we will be able to continue to have live streaming from the sanctuary. But in the meantime, I don't expect to be away until after Christmas. So we should have uninterrupted live streaming for several months. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this caused with people who were missing last week's live stream. But today, let's talk about something specific. Let's talk about joy. Let's read a few of the many verses you can find about joy. First, from Romans 15:13, may the God of hope fill you with joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. From Romans 12:12, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. Galatians 5:22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. And from John 15:11, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. Oh, so many good things coming out of joy here. Hope and patience when we're in times of trial. Joy and peace. It's wonderful what joy can give us. In fact, there are 214 mentions of joy in the Bible, which should give you some idea of just how important this subject was considered to be. So this is pretty important stuff, this joy. And let's define our terms first. I like to start there. Joy is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. And where does it come from? Well, the Bible has an answer for that. Where do we find this joy? We get joy from God. God is the source of all joy. And this is better than just being happy. Happiness is one of the fleeting emotions, just like anger and fear and all the rest. And joy is deeper than that. Joy resists our ever-changing moods, as a matter of fact. It is more stable and foundational for us than our other emotions. Now, how do we get joy? Where do we discover this joy we're talking about? Well, joy comes from doing what God wants us to do, to love God and to love each other, our friends, our neighbors, our enemies, to love others. And we can do this in part by helping others out, by pitching in. Now, if you want to get it and you're not feeling joy, let's say you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You're feeling grouchy there first thing in the morning. So how do you get to a point of joy? Well, we can turn to the author C.S. Lewis for a little trick on this. What people today would call faking it till you make it. If you wake up grumpy, tell your grumpy old self as you're getting up out of bed that you are going to be joyful today. So start acting like you are joyful. And how do we get joy? We get it by helping others. So give somebody a compliment saying, hey, so-and-so, you're looking really good today. Is that a new haircut? I like what you're wearing. Any little compliment you could give, hold the door for somebody. You will find joy in doing these things. Spend some time with nature. Take a walk outside. Enjoy God's creation. And if you can't get outside, if you're limited to the house or to a rehabilitation center or the hospital, look out the window. Take a look at the beautiful world outside. See if you can see any birds out there. That's always interesting to look for. Are there flowers blooming? What's the weather like today? Take a look outside and find out. And give up a little morning prayer of thanks to God for the day itself. You're awake, you're alive. That's a wonderful thing. And say thank you for it. That will help you get in the right frame of mind. As one of my friends like to say, well, I'm upright and taking nourishment, so it's a pretty good day. That will help you find joy right there. And it's contagious. If you are joyful, then other people are going to become joyful by being around you. Your joy will rub off on them, which is great. There were a lot of disciples, a lot of followers of Jesus who felt great joy when Jesus was around. And we can see why. Jesus brought some awfully good news, and he did a lot to help a lot of people, and they were really joyful in response. He particularly helped out those people that society tended to ignore or to put down. So if there's a particular group that's being picked on by society for one reason or another, help them out. That will make you feel joyful, and that will give them some joy as well. We also get to choose how we're going to see the world today. As we go through the day, are we going to view the world through the lens of joy? So much better to choose that than to choose sorrow or anger or fear. Now, here's the little thing. We are also what we consume. You've heard you are what you eat. Well, it's more than that. We are what we take into our minds. So if you're watching or listening to programs that make you angry or sorrowful or fearful and don't guide you in any positive way in which you can rechannel those feelings into positive action, helping others, doing what God would have you do, I would gently suggest that you might want to find something better, something more joyful to consume, so that you will view the world through a better lens and be more ready to follow God, follow Jesus, and help others. Be joyful. At the end of the day, we need to remember a few things that happened in the day that we can be grateful for. You see, our brains are designed to do something a little different. When we were living in old ways, when we were much closer to nature, most of us, we had to remember what was fearful in the day, what had gone wrong, because that tended to revolve around things that could kill us. So you wanted to remember those things so that you wouldn't run into them again, like the tiger or the poisonous snake or the deadly mushrooms, things you needed to avoid. And so you remembered those, and you forgot the good things that had happened to you in the day because those things could not eat you or could not kill you. So they weren't worth remembering. So we have to break out of that thinking. Since most of us are in a fortunate position where not a whole lot in our world is interested in eating us right now. So we have room in our minds to be grateful instead, to make a little catalog of things that had gone well, because gratitude is a real winner in the joy department. It helps us to arrive at that moment of joy, seeing the good things that God blessed us with in our days, rather than dwelling on the negative aspect of things. Now, I'm an American Baptist pastor, and my denomination tells us that we are to give a joyful witness to others to our faith. We're to tell people stories about what Jesus has done for us. Would you like to hear one? This happened to me many years ago, and there have been many other things that have happened since, but this really sticks out in my mind, and it's easy to tell. I was asked many years ago to be part of our church's youth group trip to Colorado, to the every 4-year meeting there. And I was going to be an adult chaperone for that. And my leader waited until we were on the plane, and I had done a lot of church theater, and she suggested that, she told me once the plane was in the air and I could not escape, that I should come up with a drama, a sketch for delivery on the talent night, which would be on Thursday. There would be a group of interested adults and students who wanted to learn theater. They wanted to learn drama in its relationship to worship. And so I got there and we created some skits based on stuff they had in the library. And we also turned a joke, a long joke, into another skit. And we were preparing for Thursday, and it was going very well. Everybody was enjoying themselves. They were learning some new techniques. They really liked what they were doing. And we were getting ready for Thursday. And then I found out on Wednesday that there would be a professional group of actors and actresses who would also be performing that night. And I got, well, needless to say, I got a little upset because my small group of very amateur thespians were going to go up against a professional troupe, and I was very worried that this would really undermine their experience, that they would feel embarrassed, and everything they'd learned that week would be lost. So I was heading across an open green. I was getting more and more aggravated, and I wanted to find the director who I knew and bring up my concerns. And as I was heading across that field, all by myself, I felt the presence of someone behind me and off to my right. And that feeling was so strong that I stopped and I turned and I looked behind me for that individual that I fully expected to be near me and reaching out for me. And there was no one physically present. But in that moment, I felt the most powerful sense of peace that I had ever felt. There was joy in it. There was peace in it. And I got the feeling that I shouldn't be concerned, that things were going to work out. That was Jesus. I had, years ago, as a kid, I'd listened to a whole lot of sermons that talked about having a mountaintop experience. I always wanted one. Well, my prayer was granted. And I had my mountaintop moment with Jesus. And I felt this sense of peace and the joy that went with it. And I went in to discover that the professional troupe would be performing in one area. We would be performing in a different building in a coffee house setting, and everything would be well. Now, that scene has never faded in my mind, and that's one way you know that something like this is a real experience. The other thing that I took away from it, the other thing Jesus gave me in that moment, was a sense of what people feel when they have passed over, when they have died. And it has helped me with many family and friends who have died, and I have helped their families at funerals. And what it gave me was an understanding that that peace and that joy that I felt in that moment, that feeling that all would be well, was diluted through the veil of reality. We don't see things clearly until we are in the presence of Christ after we die. And that has given me joy that has tempered my grief, because I know that those friends and family who have died are then receiving that same joy, that same feeling of peace, undiluted, unfiltered by this reality of ours. And that gives me great peace in times of grief. It is a wonderful gift, and it's been with me for the rest of my life. And I expect it to be with me until I too die and face Jesus directly. So that's my experience. That's what Jesus has done for me. And that's one way that I have received joy. And I wish you all joy today. I think we've gone on long enough. No need to make this a full-fledged sermon. But I wish you all joy in your days and in your lives. And I hope to talk to you again soon. God bless you all. Have a